Hello, everyone. Good morning. Happy Sunday. Thank you so much for joining us for worship today for the second Sunday in Lent. If this is your first time joining us or it's your first time seeing me up here, my name is Sal Sapienza. I'm the brand new pastor at the United Church of Rowayton. We are an open and affirming congregation of the United Church of Christ. And that means that no matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. Now, we have such a wonderful staff here at the United Church of Rowayton, such giving and talented people. And one of those is our communications director, Bill Peltz. Bill is always on Sunday working back there on the soundboard and the camera. And he is also a really great photographer. Bill has been taking some candid pictures these past few Sundays, but he realized that he doesn't really have a group shot of us. And so we're going to begin our service this morning by taking a group shot together. So if everyone can please stand and face Bill and wave. Come on in. Can you get everybody, Bill?
Oh, yeah. One more.
Wave. Yay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I love it. Well, we're so glad that you're here today. We hope that you'll also be here next Sunday. Next Sunday is a special Sunday. Of course, it's the first Sunday of the month, so that'll be the Communion Sunday. But it's an extra special Communion Sunday next Sunday because we have several of our 4th and 5th graders who are going to be receiving communion for the very first time. And so we're going to honor them in a very special way at next Sunday's service, so I hope you'll be there. Next Sunday is also our new members class. After the service next Sunday, I'm going to be leading a new members class upstairs in the meeting house. It's just a 1-hour class. It goes from 11:30 to 12:30. And so if you're someone who's interested in becoming a member of the church, we'd love to have you join us. We already have 11 people who have signed up to be new members. We're so grateful for that, but we'd love to have a few more. So if you're not a member of the church and you'd like to join us, please sign the sheet over there on the welcome table. If you want to be a new member now and you cannot make next Sunday's class, still put your name down there, and I'll find a time to go over the materials with you. We will not welcome new members again until the fall. So if you want to be a member, this is the time to do it. We have lots of opportunities for you to serve. Whether you're a new member or you've been here for decades, we are so grateful for all the people who volunteer to serve the church. So you may remember a few Sundays ago, our director of music, Ellen Dickinson, got up and was inviting people to join the choir, those of you who like to sing. Our deacons are always looking for people to be greeters on Sunday morning. If you think you'd like to be a greeter, please contact our deacons of the month. Their information is there in your order of worship today. If you want to join our prayer shawl ministry, tomorrow night they are meeting at 7 o'clock over in Livingston Hall. It's okay if you don't know how to knit. They will teach you. And then on Saturday, we are going to be gathering in the kitchen here at the church at 9:30 in the morning to prepare meals for people who are homebound and people in the community in need. And any level of cooking is welcome. We need people to peel, to chop, to bake, to clean up. So if you can help this Saturday at 9:30, if you would please see Joanne. She's sitting there in the back. Her information is in the order of worship. And thank you to Caroline Robinson for facilitating that for us. This is the second Sunday in Lent, and a wonderful way to journey through the season of Lent is by praying every morning with a daily devotional. Our denomination, the United Church of Christ, puts out a different devotional every year. The theme this year is Bend. It has a Bible reading and reflection for every single day, up until and including Easter. So we have about 10 copies left they're on the welcome table, and there's a little box for a $5 donation if you can to help us cover the costs. Now, for our service today for the second Sunday in Lent, we're going to be focused on the lectionary reading for today, which is the one in which Jesus says, if anybody wishes to follow me, you must deny yourself. And I know that's really confusing. What does that mean to deny yourself? Well, when Jesus talks about denying yourself, he means denying your false self. And there's a wonderful quote in your order of worship right under centering and preparation there on the front. It's from the Benedictine monk whose name is Father Basil Pennington. And he said, the false self is an identity based on what you have, what you do, and what others think about you. But in stark contrast to this is the true self in Christ, which is who we are before God and in God. Christ living in us. So that's going to be the theme for today's service. So would you please join me now in reciting together our call to worship? Well, some of you know that I grew up in the Roman Catholic Church, like some of you did. And in the little Italian-American Catholic church that I grew up in Queens, we had a huge 10-foot crucifix above the altar. And it depicted in great detail Jesus on the cross with open, gaping wounds and blood dripping out. And it wasn't just there for Good Friday or for Lent. It was there all year round. That was the focus of our worship every Sunday. It was also up there for baptisms and for weddings. Can you imagine your wedding photos with the bloody Jesus behind you? Now, my parents had a smaller replica of that same crucifix up in our house. It was in their bedroom, above their bed. And in the Catholic school that I went to, that same crucifix was in every single classroom, and it was right above the blackboard where we would see it all day long. And so for me growing up, I thought that the purpose of our faith, the focus was on suffering and death and blood. But as I grew in my spiritual understanding and in the teachings of Jesus, I came to see that the focus of Jesus' teachings was on the good news. And that good news was not about death, it was about life. If you look at the teachings of Jesus, they were all about life, how to live this life and live it to the full. In fact, in the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verse 10, Jesus tells us why he came. He says, and I quote, I have come so that you may have life and have it to the full. Exclamation point. That's what he says. Some versions of the Bible say, I have come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. It's not, I have come so that you may have life more miserably. Now, I share that with you today because as we heard, today's gospel reading for the second Sunday in Lent is the one in which Jesus says, if you wish to follow me, you have to deny yourself and take up your cross every day. And so some Christians have been led to this belief that we are given crosses to bear. God gives us crosses. You know, my mother used to say that. She was a wonderful woman, a very devout woman. But whenever she experienced any hardships in life, she always said, well, this is the cross God has given me to bear. And I have met Christians who have stayed in very unhappy marriages or who have lived their entire life in the closet because they said, this is the cross God gave me to bear. Now, I do not believe that Jesus wants us to be miserable in order to follow him. But that said, you know, sometimes suffering is a precursor to spiritual awakening. Sometimes it takes a job loss or a divorce or a medical diagnosis for us to become more fully aware of God's presence in our lives and of the truth of who we are. Some of you may be familiar with the contemporary spiritual teacher whose name is Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart Tolle has written many books, but one of his books is called The Power of Now. And in that book, he tells the story of his kind of awakening. It was a time when he was really suffering in life. And he says that one day he found himself sitting on a park bench. He was in such great despair. And he kept repeating to himself over and over again, I can't live with myself anymore. I can't live with myself anymore. And in that moment when it appeared he was having a breakdown, he was actually having a breakthrough. Because he realized, if I can't live with myself anymore, then there must be two. And he knew that he was only one person. And so he realized that one of those must be false. Now, The Power of Now has sold millions of copies. And if you go into a bookstore or you go on Amazon and you look in the self-help books, you'll see that right now, most of those books have something to do with the authentic self. How to find my authentic voice. How to live my purpose. How to be my authentic self. This is what Jesus was teaching in this gospel 2,000 years ago when he talked about denying the self. He was talking about that false self. During a time in my life when I was struggling, I was led to the teachings of the Christian mystic, the medieval Christian mystic who was known as John of the Cross. He wrote that poem, The Dark Night of the Soul. He wrote it while he was in prison. And in that poem, he said, I have abandoned all I ever sought to be, and in dying, my spirit has been released. Now, obviously, he wrote that while he was still alive. So the dying he was talking about wasn't physical death. He was talking about abandoning all he ever sought to be. And that death, that abandonment, is what freed him. That's really the purpose of the spiritual life. That's why Jesus says, whoever loses themselves will find themselves. This is what this season of Lent that we're in is all about. We're supposed to be letting go of those things of the false self. As we heard in that quote from Father Basil Pennington this morning, the false self is the self that is about what I have, what I do, what other people say about me. That's the false self, the ego self. The true self is the self the way God sees us. And so what we're doing in Lent is we're letting go of greed and vanity and jealousy. We're letting go of the things of the ego, of lack, of limitation. We're giving up those things for Lent. And some will say that the season of Lent is about crucifying those things, crucifying the false self so that we can resurrect the true self, the divine self, the Christ self, the self that God created us to be. The truth of your being, as Eckhart Tolle discovered, is that you and God are not two. You're one, just as Jesus said. And when you know the truth of that oneness and you start living from it, you're set free. Free to be who God created you to be. May it be so. Amen.